Man, it has been a while since I did a Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation video on the channel, and it feels good. It feels good to be able to talk about the series again, because I'm a big fan, as all of you know, and I have been missing the series. Even if I have been reading the light novel off and on here and there, I have been missing talking about the series. And today, I want to dedicate a video talking about the manga of Mushoku Tensei. And not just any manga of Mushoku Tensei, but actually the Eris Gaiden, or the Eris spin-off of Mushoku Tensei. For instance, focusing on what happens after Season 1 of Mushoku Tensei's anime, when the entire crew, when, Rudy, Eris, and all of them split up, go their own directions, and what Eris does when she tries to get stronger. That is what the Eris spinoff focuses on. And so, if you have actually yet to read it, I highly recommend you do, actually. It's a very good read. There is 3 chapters out so far, and it is very decent. Artwork looks interesting, looks good, and obviously any Mushoku Tensei content is good content. Like, I'm just happy to be able to have some new content for, Mushoku Tensei. So, let's just dive headfirst into it. So, obviously, this video is going to contain spoilers for the anime. For instance, if you are not up to date with the anime, like if you didn't finish Season 1, then I don't really think you should watch this video, because obviously this contains a lot of spoilers for probably the content throughout the entirety of Mushoku Tensei's anime, but also, I'm going to be talking about the chapters that came out, and obviously there's spoilers if you've only just watched the anime and not just read these 3 chapters that came out. And now, with that disclaimer out of the way, let's just dive headfirst into it. So, Eris Gaiden. It is honestly refreshing to see the perspective or the POV shift from Rudy to another character, for instance, Eris, because, as you know, my thought process on her as a character, she's easily, like, my favorite character of Mushoku Tensei for a good reason. She is a very powerful character that has journeyed with Rudy since the very beginning of the story of the anime, and we got to see her grow up and become the very person she is in these chapters that I have read, but also at the end of the anime. She is an incredibly important character, and she is someone that's probably going to end up being Rudy's main wife at the end of the story, because of just everything that's happened between the 2 characters throughout the journey. So let's just get right into it. Eris and what she's doing, her motivation, and why she's separated from the party. Let's just get this out of the way, let's talk about it. So, as we know, with the ending of the anime of Mushoku Tensei, there was a lot of controversy around it. Like, the community talking about it, and just everything that happened with the entire cast of characters was insane. Because, obviously, Rudy, he died. Like, he got straight up impelled by the dragon god. Eris couldn't do anything. She just watched someone that she cared about deeply just basically die in front of her. She couldn't stand up and fight at all. She got to see someone just die, and if it wasn't thanks to him being lucky and having a little bit of plot on his side, Rudy would have died. Rudy would have been just lights out right then and there. He's done. Like, just straight up dead. And it puts in perspective just how powerful the Dragon God is, but also how lucky they are that Rudy is even alive to begin with after that, being able to even walk away from that fight, even though he became a donut. And then, after that, obviously, we have the scene where, thanks to all the problems and Rudy's overall mortality, almost running out in that moment, Eris and Rudy have a moment, an intimate moment, and we know they lose their virginity together. And it was a very obviously controversial moment for the entire community and for the characters because of just the message, the meaning behind it, and there's just a lot to really discuss, and I'm not going to get back into that topic because I've talked about that a lot in my anime reviews, so I'm not going to, get back into that right now. But the point is thanks to everything that happened in the final episodes of the anime, led into where, Eris went her own direction, she separated from Rudy, and then now we have this spin-off manga that, I'm going to be talking about. So it kind of gets us up to speed of, why I'm even here and talking about this series. So with, Eris going her own direction, one of her main reasons for it, as I've kind of already hinted at with this video, is that she literally declares herself in the chapters that she wants to be strong enough for Rudy, because she feels Rudy is powerful. She feels that Rudy has the determination to get stronger, and she feels that Rudy one day will be able to face the Dragon God and maybe bring him down, make him bend his knee itself. She has faith in Rudy. And because of that faith and how she believes in him, she felt like she was the one holding Rudy back. And because of that, she separated herself for she can get stronger, doing her own individual sword training to be able to be the swordsman for Rudy in the future, to be able to fight with him, to bring down the Dragon God if they must ever fight him ever again in the future. And I'm willing to bet you it will happen in the future. So it's really interesting to see the development of Eris, because when the series began, she obviously was very resistant to Rudy's character, like she just didn't want to be around him, but then Rudy became a teacher to her, became someone that she admired and loved, and obviously she became to depend on Rudy. She depended on him greatly as a person. We see that throughout the journey of the series, the early stages of the story, of how much she depends on Rudy, his magic, to his intellect, but also just his overall personality, and always never really looking at the bad side of things, always giving everybody the pep talk that they need. He knew what must be done. Eris obviously always depended on Rudy because of that. And now that, Rudy's not there, we can see that she's trying to grow. She's leaving the nest and trying to be her own person. And we can see these skills of what she's using throughout the first 3 chapters of this Eris spinoff. For instance, you see her being able to read a map. And obviously this seems like something very basic. It's a very basic thing, being able to read a map. But this is a callback to the beginning of the story when Eris was, first introduced. She was someone that didn't want to learn. She didn't want to really read. She didn't want to learn magic, etc. But we saw how she was with Rudy at the beginning of the story. And seeing her being able to navigate, even if a rough way, it shows she has learned. She has progressed as a person. And it's very nice to see that the things that Rudy did, how he set it up so early on in her life, has caused her to be who she is now and be a lot stronger as a person. I appreciate stuff like that. It's the little things that you can really admire and appreciate. And it's one of the things why I think many of us talk about this series, because it's immersive, seeing these characters grow and pick up these things that help them along their normal day of life. It's beautiful. It's beautiful writing. But, besides obviously that, we got Eris trying to learn the sword. She's trying to get better with the sword, because that's really all she has. She may know some magic, but at the end of the day, she is a sword user. She wants to use a sword style to be able to bring down her opponents, and the only way to get better is probably going to the best swordsman that is possibly out there, and that would be the Sword God. Now, in terms of rankings, as a refresher, remember there's different rankings in gods throughout it, like for instance, the Dragon God, he's number 2, and then we have like the Technique God, and then we also have the Sword God. The Sword God is technically number 6 in terms of the category of all the strongs, gods of what they're represented as, and so he is obviously a drop in the bucket in comparison to, like, the Dragon God that Rudy and Eris fought around episode 21-22. But it doesn't change the fact he's pretty much the pinnacle of swordsman. He's the pinnacle of what it means to be basically a sword god. Way above anything we have seen from the series in terms of swordsmanship. And so it makes sense that Eris would want to learn from someone of that caliber, to be able to stand before the sword god and become that sword god's equal, and then one day they're superior. If Eris can do that, it basically positions her in terms of the power scaling of the world as like the 5th strongest in the world, or at least the 5th or 6th strongest in the world, which is a big deal, because if she can be counted amongst like the top 10 of the world, that's impressive. Obviously, Eris has grown a lot, and she is incredibly powerful thanks to her journey. We get to see that demonstrated continuously throughout the first 3 chapters of the Eris spinoff. And for clarification, the Eris spinoff isn't done yet. It's still coming out. So if you're wondering if it's already completed, no, it is still coming out, and I'm excited for Chapter 4 to finally release, or be translated if it's yet to, be translated. But anyways, getting back on topic though, Eris, we've seen her strength, and we see it demonstrated, but obviously, even with her immense strength, she has limitations. She's not able to take on people that are too far above her. For instance, the Sword God. The Sword God is nowhere near the same level as the Dragon God in terms of strength, and she realizes if she can overcome him, she's one step closer to being able to bring someone down that's literally a god, which I am excited to see the day that actually happens. But then we, track over to Chapter 3, and we get to see Eris take an actual L, a big L, in the spinoff. And it's a big detail. And the reason why is because up to that very point, at the end of Chapter 3, we've seen Eris just mop the floor with everyone. Absolutely demolish everyone besides, obviously, the sword god. But she encounters this boss, this individual that knows a sword technique called the Sword of Light, basically being able to go super fast, slice their sword fast, and be able to fight with, and Eris doesn't know this technique, and she needs to learn it. So this opponent she's fighting will allow her to be able to reach that new threshold of strength and be able to fight opponents at a much higher level. So it's obvious that she needed to take an L, and she's going to learn from this. And I always love seeing characters that, have to learn from their mistakes and learn from actually watching and seeing. It's why I think so many people love Zoro from One Piece, like how his swordsmanship is, how he learns in his fights. It's one of the things I think many people love about Zoro as a character. And Eris kind of follows that same mantra to a degree, and I appreciate that. But to kind of talk about the chapters in terms of structure, we obviously have Chapter 1, that's Eris traveling to be able to become, a trainee underneath the sword god. She obviously manages to accomplish this, and she takes down a few sword saints, which shows that Eris is definitely above a sword saint level, or she's a high level sword saint. And then you obviously have in Chapter 2, which I feel is more of a callback to the OVA that we got, recently with Mushoku Tensei, and Eris goes goblin slaying. She wipes out some goblins, getting to show her strength, and that's pretty much about it. And then we have Chapter 3, which, as I said, she took an L, and she's trying to figure out the Sword of Light. So there's a lot to take away. There's a lot of nitty-gritty details within the chapters if you're really wanting to go looking for it, and I think that's the beauty of Mushoku Tensei. So, overall, was it a good read? Can I recommend it for people to read? Yes. Now, in terms of, the content, etc., I think that in terms of spoilers, like if we're talking about if it spoils content for the, the light novel, it's a mixed bag. I would say you'd be fine. I honestly think you'd be fine to really read the manga. I wouldn't really worry too much. Like, for instance, if you're itching for content and you want to read the manga and you don't want to, let's say, read a light novel, because I know how people are. People don't want to read. Like, that's just how it is. People don't want to actually read a light novel, I do recommend if you're willing to go the distance of reading a manga, do read the Eris manga. It's pretty good. It is. It's really good. But I'm going to wrap it up there. I will talk more about the series soon enough. For instance, light novel related. I know people have been asking for it, and soon enough, it's coming. But okay, guys, be safe, stay healthy. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like. It does help me out a lot. And with that, guys, be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.